States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lynn, will you take the roll call, please?
Kevin McGovern,
Present.
Dan Patterson, Cal Ellis,
Here.
Frank Marr,
Here.
Brady Murphy.
Here.
Okay. Public comment. First, we have Ann Stamp.
Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me address you here tonight. So I'll get a few quick comments. My name is Ann Stamp. I'm of Stamp Farms. I'm a full-time farmer and a landowner here in Exeter. I, along with our children, my husband, and my in-laws, are steadfast stewards of land that we are intricately linked to here in Exeter and elsewhere in the state as well. For decades, we have all poured our hearts, our souls, and our bodies into providing our communities with the tangible fruits of our labors, whether it is open space, local pumpkins, or our iconic sweet corn. Bill and I, and my husband, cherish our hopes and dreams to continue with this chosen way of life, this very intense commitment to agriculture, in order to nurture a legacy of farming to pass on to our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. And just to speak about the proposed zoning amendment that was discussed at the April meeting, that zoning amendment allows for that reality. Alternative energy options will allow for farmers to continue farming. Farming, as you I'm sure know, it's a commitment that doesn't typically yield high financial rewards. Added income will be a crucial bridge between a generation ready to retire, and that's not me, by the way, but could be, and future hopes and dreams of being viable, contributing members to a sustainably responsible community. As well, the amendment is consistent with Exeter's comprehensive plan. I sincerely believe the fear-gripped voices against this amendment are truly nothing less than elitism. Using tactics of fear-mongering, false representation that was so evident, they pressed an agenda of pickling this very community into their personal desire for an antiquated, unsustainable town. They're working tirelessly to draft additional restrictions on current alternative energy guidelines. The result will ultimately cripple each and every one of us. At stake is control over others' property rights. Farmers personally understand these property rights. We are pouring our very lives into the stewardship of a resource in order to provide irreplaceable local fiber, food, agricultural education, and energy for future generations. We must have the ability to continue to do so. I'm just here tonight to share those thoughts and to ask you to please don't follow the misguided agendas and recommendations. And please consider agriculture and agricultural families here in the town of Exeter. And again, I thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight.
Next, we have Tom McMillan.
Tom McMillan from Cobblestone Hill Road. I simply briefly want to urge the council to retain the role of the zoning board in the consideration of these special use permits. It would seem rather obvious that the clear reason to exclude it is for the special interest of the applicant. And the zoning board, on the other hand, is the board that is charged specifically with upholding the value of the neighboring parts of the community and upholding the best interest of the town as a whole. And I think it would do the town a great disservice to exclude the zoning board from these considerations.
Moving on to the next item, we have acknowledgements and announcements. First, Exeter dog licensing is due annually from April 1st to June 1st, and $6. After June 1st, It is $6 plus a $25 late fee per license. They can be obtained at the Exeter Animal Shelter or here at the Exeter Town Clerk's office. Additionally, we have the 43rd Annual Exeter Memorial Day Parade on Sunday, May 27th at 2 p.m., beginning at the Sunderland Road here on 102, and concluding at the Exeter Public Library, just on the street also on 102. The additional announcement I have is that next month's meeting will be held at the Metcalf School in the auditorium. Any other acknowledgements or announcements by the council?
Could I just make a couple? One is that Wednesday night in the library, we'll be reviewing the town's budget, so I urge you to come and see what's out there and what we're gonna present to the financial town meeting on June 12th. But the other issue is just the Friends of the Exeter Library holding an annual plant sale right out here in the parking lot on Saturday the 19th. They've come to us for a permit to use the lot. We granted that permit. It's from 10 to 2 on Saturday the 19th right here in the library. And council may have seen a recent pass-through from our Director of Social Services. And I'd just like to speak to the fact that she alerts us and asks us to pass this on, that there's a paid internship opportunity for students to work on farms. Applications are available here on her desk here in the building. I don't know details, but if you know students that might like to have a paid internship to work on a farm, information's available in the building. Thank you.
All right. Any other? All right, here we go. We move on to the agenda order. I'll move that we approve the agenda order as presented.
Second.
Can I, discussion,
Sure.
can I amend that agenda order slightly, Mr. President?
Sure, we look at the
On
change.
unfinished business, could we move item H, Regional School District Finance Committee, to the beginning of unfinished business, please?
So move that prior to A.
Yes, please.
I'll accept the amendment.
I will too.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, we did have one Reynolds Trust voucher. Any reports anybody would wish to remove? All right, communications. Frank, start with you.
Actually, number 39 and number 4, please, Mr. President.
Okay. Right? Okay. Cal?
I had wanted 4 removed as well. 17A and 49 and 40 and 53 concern vacancies / appointments.
And Dan?
I got 9, 12,
9, 12.
16, and 43.
Okay. All set? For minutes, we do have to remove number 5. I was not present for that one. The rest we were all present for the rest of the meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we will approve the minutes of the work session for council meeting April 30th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Vacancies and appointments. The first 3 we still have. We have a new one, the Memorial Day Parade Committee. There's been some vacancies in the committee, or there will be soon. They do a lot of work for the town, getting that up and running each year, getting donations, organizing it. I think we're looking for new members to join that, so I will make a motion that we post that one. The minute previously done.
Second.
Any discussion on the,
Lynn, you sit on that committee, right?
Yes.
Could you give the council and the audience an update on where we are on that?
The committee's lost some members this year due to, death, people moving, and we're down to 3 members who are doing it this year, but, aren't gonna be able to do it next year all by themselves again, so we're looking for new members to help, keep the parade going. If we don't get some help, I'm afraid this year's gonna be the last parade we have.
Do you know when the next meeting is?
And
You have it
it's
scheduled? But there's probably gonna be one between now and the parade.
Yeah, this week or next week.
Okay.
Mm,
Let me know.
Sure.
Will you post these, do you post these on the town website too?
Yeah.
Maybe get Amy to throw it on the
This one,
library
this
Facebook
one
page.
will ask
Yeah.
me to push out for us, yes.
really boost the post?
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resignations?
None.
We have none. Appointments, animal shelter study committee member, we had
None.
no exceptions there.
Can I just make a comment there?
Sure.
I know that they are preparing a final report for us, so it would seem to me for us to try to pursue that right now is rather moot point, somewhat of a folly, so I would suggest that we just remove that from the agenda. I would make that motion.
Is there a second to remove?
I'll second that motion.
All right, any discussion on removing that from our agenda? Is there,
I don't know whether we can cover it under this, Mr. President, or whether you want to continue on underneath Liaison Marcy's report of the animal control. But I guess it's come to all of our understanding that Wednesday's meeting that was planned has been canceled for lack of being a quorum. So I think that not knowing exactly where they are in their draft, I think the council should try and contact the chairman and committee members and tell them to put forward exactly what they have done.
if they're in the beginning stages of a draft, they might need the help? All right.
Well-
We have a member here, we could ask.
It's apparent to me that I think that the committee feels that moving forward, they're not gonna probably have a quorum because they think that they've accomplished everything that they can do within their power. So, I'll leave it up to Councilman Morrissey if he wants to elaborate later on in the agenda under his report of the animal control, or whether Steve wants to say anything. But I agree with Calvin that it's probably not necessary to continue to advertise that appointment. And maybe we should take a closer look at that committee and whether or not it's gonna continue to exist and whether or not the council should make any decisions with regard to it moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah, we advertised this right after the member had resigned.
All right.
And then it's been a while since we haven't had any candidates call, any volunteers come forward. So I agree with Cal, that we should just renew it.
Okay.
And as far as what Councilman Marr is saying, I can speak to that, maybe we'll get to our resort shelter report, and Steve can address it also.
Okay. Call the vote. All in favor of removing the posting for the animal shelter study committee member, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Expiring terms, we have one for Jerome Sigio, the Board of Tax and Assessment Review Member, for a term expiring June 2018. We did have a letter for that. I believe. He's not really, I think he's moving out of
He's
the
moving
state.
out of town.
I think you're the, do you want to speak to that, Cal?
Well, I will, and I have it actually in here, but we know he's relocating out of state. His home has been sold, so I would first make a motion that clerk send him a letter on our behalf, thanking him for his service on the board.
Second that.
And I'd also like to make a second motion that we post for a vacancy. It is an alternate position, so it would be posted as an alternate, but as our assessor has told me, and probably some of you, when they sit together to review cases of appeals, anyone can discuss, and he happens to, I know I've been told he's been one that's been very helpful and participatory, so I think they're gonna make sense.
I agree with that. I'm on the board of assessment review. And just what you said is absolutely true.
Can you even hear me back there, Ted?
Absolutely, I heard every word you said.
I mean, I'm not trying to bellow.
No, no,
I'm
I
told
agree.
I can be heard in other buildings, and I don't need to.
No, I can hear you perfectly clear, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Well, thank you.
He was a very good man, and we all sit and discuss all the issues at one time.
Would all those present make note that for the first time that I'm aware, that gentleman has spoken.
Ted has agreed with Calvin.
Anything that I've ever said, so, thank you,
Life
Ted.
changes, the old age is getting to me.
Okay, that could be a good thing. Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
So we get the second on the motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then the second, the motion is to post.
Post.
I'll second the motion to post. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. But before we rush away, did you hear this? Board of Assessment Review doesn't meet often, but when taxpayers file an appeal, if they're not satisfied with the response from the assessor, they sit with a board of fellow citizens to review the situation. Sometimes the board agrees with them, sometimes it doesn't, but it's a participatory piece of work that really needs to be done on everybody's behalf. So, think about that.
Moving on to number 8, public hearings. First one is a public entertainment license. Applicant is Kevin Wright on behalf of SoCo Flea and Farmers Market, 795 Tower Hill Road, North Kingstown, Rhode Island, to hold flea and farmers markets, including but not limited to vendors of antiques, crafts, and farm products on the front lawn of Oak Harbor Village, located at 567 South County Trail, Exeter, on Sundays, weather permitting, from May 13th through October 31st of 2018, from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is the applicant present? We got a letter today from the fire marshal. Previous years, there's been no concerns having it, so Liz, everything?
He owes $130.04 in advertising and certified mailing fees.
Any comments or questions from the council?
No, only to note that by requirement of statute, the abutting property owners have to notice, as they always are in a case like this. And apparently, we see no one here that objects.
We sign up for public comment. All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and is there a motion to grant the license?
You're on a roll.
All right, I'll move to grant the public entertainment license to the applicant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Then, all right, B. Public entertainment license application, Ray Vernon, on behalf of the Rhode Island Military Vehicle Collector Club, 37 Ideal Court, East Greenwich, to hold historic military vehicle show Saturday, September 8th, 2018, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, September 9th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Rain or shine on the soccer field and in the pavilion at Camp Connecticut, so 54 Exeter Road. Motion to open the public entertainment license.
I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Okay. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we have that one?
I think the applicant is here.
The applicant here, right?
Good evening.
That's not right.
It's not Ray. My name's Eric DeRochambeau. I'm replacing Ray because there's some other engagement.
What's your last name?
DeRochambeau.
Spell that.
D-E, capital R-O-C-H-A-M-B-E-A-U.
Name every
So
one.
French.
No.
A
Madam
bit,
Clerk,
a bit Francais.
Madam Clerk,
Who's
this is
counsel?
actually the gentleman who wrote the check for the
Oh, okay.
permits.
Thank you.
Does the council have any questions for the applicant? So
This is your first excursion here in Exeter? 'Cause I
In
don't
Exeter,
remember seeing-
unfortunately, I used to do it in North Kingstown. I gave up after 11 years, let somebody else do it for the fun of it. And last year, I suggested Canonicus. The person in charge did not think that he needed to do any paperwork with the town of Exeter, so it was a mistake. So we're making sure that we do it this year by the book.
Oh, thank you.
We are all fees paid, Lynn?
$140.88 is due for advertising and certified mailings, and a letter from Cape Canonicus,
All right,
and
can do.
we haven't received Sue's report.
The fire marshal signed?
Just,
The fire marshal knows
Yeah, I
Ray
did.
because they're both firemen.
Usually we do for these, for this, I'm not so sure that's anything she really needs to review.
Are these a lot of the same vehicles that are at the Conservation Show?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
We're the only ones in the state to do this, so
Yeah, right.
one color green and no chrome.
No further questions?
Any half tracks?
It does not depend on me, it depends on the owner if he wants to bring it. There will be
Really?
possibly, there might be some trash.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
How about a gamma goat? You have any more of those?
The last person I knew sold his.
Really?
Yeah, very intricate mechanics.
Yeah, I remember you guys at the air show with the Jeeps and all the uniforms too.
That's what we do.
Good set up, it's pretty awesome.
We like history.
I'm sorry, I'm just wondering if, for issues of traffic, which there may be minimal, I just didn't know, I think we might just
We
notice.
had 140 cars that came in last year. As in people coming in and
But people, they kinda,
they
it's not,
park and then they walk around.
oh, they walk around and look at
Yes.
each other's
Yes.
overview. It's
Absolutely.
not, doesn't draw a large number of outside people.
No.
Very good.
When it was at the air show, it brought a lot of people to be part of the air show.
When it was the air show, but we're different. We don't do air show. We don't fly.
Will it be
Right down, go
advertised in
alongside
any
the road.
way? I'm sorry, will it be advertised in any way?
Yes, usually local paper, South County, and up north, there's some other guys who do.
Should we consider putting this on the library website as well?
What is it, September?
Yes,
Right after
8
Labor
to
Day?
9.
So do you own a vehicle?
More than one.
No, good for you.
You can only drive one at a time.
What is this?
Will you have a?
Thank you for keeping the memory alive.
Any questions?
No, but could we make sure that town sergeant knows about this so that he's aware that that's happening? Just so he knows, just so he's
Yeah,
out and
absolutely.
about and.
Yep.
It's like- Very good.
I'll make a motion that we close the public entertainment, the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion that we grant the license subject to completion of the things that you have delineated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Three, public entertainment license application for Joel Howard, 1833 South County Trail, West Kingston, on behalf of the Southern New England Truck Pullers Association to hold truck pulls on Saturday, May 19th, rain date of May 26th, June 23rd, rain date of June 30th, and October 13th, with a rain date of October 30th, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the northern portion of the town-owned Reynolds Field, located on South Road, Exeter. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Is Joel here?
Yes.
Hi, Joel. All right. This is something that we have, it happens every year. There's always been a decent turnout, and they typically give a portion of the proceeds to the Rhode Island Extra Food Bank. Anything you want to say about it, or?
Everything's fine on our end.
Okay. Anything from the council, or?
Well, you know, I've said this before, it appears that your taking good care of the property, and it looks so much better than it did years ago before you folks tackled it. Are you pleased with the way they're maintaining it? Asking our public works director, so thank you for that. And neighbor, I'm sorry, and again by statute, abutting property owners were noticed. Actually, we got a letter, we got a response from one who indicated that he wholeheartedly supports what you do there, so. It's good.
Everything else done?
They owe, $127.54 in certified mailing and advertising fees.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to grant the public entertainment license subject to the fees being paid.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, all set.
Mr. Howard, take it easy when you're backing out.
I'll watch out for that.
Oh, you can bump it up.
Have a good season, Joe.
Number 9, personnel issues and labor negotiation. Anything to discuss or? None? All right. Cool. Lynn?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. For executive? Okay. Animal shelter awarding of bid veterinary services. We did receive a letter today from Steve, for his recommendation. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to him.
We received 2 bids, one from North Kingston Animal Hospital and one from the traveling animal vet that comes to our facility every other Monday. We've had these same 2 vendors for the last 3 years. They've worked very well. So the traveling vet saves us. He only does cats, so he does every other 2 weeks. He comes right to the facility. He's there today, for instance, and takes care of whatever cat issues we have, and then North Kingston handles all the dogs mainly, or emergencies on cats.
Are the prices going up over?
A little bit, not a lot. Salmon River Hill does pretty well, only a few dollars here and there. Similar with North Kingston.
Okay.
For the record, might note that bids were opened on May 4th, this past Friday, 1 o'clock. And as indicated, 2 bids were received from the companies that have been doing the work for us for some time.
I don't have the recommendation letter.
You want to see it?
Yeah.
Oh, here, please go. It was on your, in front of you, just right there.
Oh,
It just came in somewhere over there.
Is there a motion to proceed?
I move that the bids be accepted, Salmon River and North Kingstown Animal Hospital, per the recommendation of our Director of Public Works.
I'll second it.
Any discussion from the council? Okay.
I was just trying to pull up
That's
the
your-
worksheet that Steve submitted to see what the increase was, because I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's,
I don't know if I had a stack of budget paperwork here.
What? Two new papers.
Here it is. So Steve, the budget's for the same amount as last year?
Correct.
So should we amend that, or,
No.
so we can stay within the,
Well, I can't guarantee that, but I can't tell you how many animals are gonna have. Hopefully not as many.
sure.
we have noticed a little decline in the.
Well, I know that when you put this worksheet together, you haven't gotten the bid, so.
Right, well, the worksheet is a bid list of items that we may need to do.
Right.
That's what that is. From over the last years, it's been refined a few times. But that's the things that we may need performed in the course of a year that we've had in the past. So that's basically, they give us a price for those items. Only other thing that would be non-bid is an emergency, because we need them and over. But for the most part, as long as, the extra work that's being put in, eliminating the feral cats has helped a lot with the kittens. So that number's coming down all the time, which saves us money every year. And we're seeing those numbers affected.
Do you know off the top of your head what the, because you said there was a slight increase with Salmon River and North Kingstown?
Yeah, it's only $1 or $2 on any given item. It's very, very minimal increase.
Okay.
Their prices are extremely low compared to
Okay.
what you or I would pay if we went down there.
I'm sure.
I'm sure you know too.
Yes, I do. Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
We have a motion before us to accept. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have purchase of a new patrol vehicle.
We need to address that, huh?
Sure.
Okay, what we're doing is we're going through the budget. The emergency management director has requested a used vehicle because he's been using his with 300,000 miles on it. Steve's replacing a pickup at Public Works, but to fix that, for the EM director to use, would be prohibitive. So we're looking through all the finances. There's money in the account for the town sergeant to purchase a new vehicle, and we can take one of his old vehicles and use for emergency management. The emergency management director, was it about $2,200 of the mileage, I believe, he ate up. So we're paying him by the mile to use his own vehicle. So this is one way to kill two birds with one stone. We'll get the cost down on that, and that's where we're at.
Do you want a motion to proceed to bid?
Do we need to talk to
I would, yeah,
Richard and Scout?
I think it would be good
To
to,
get the specifications, what they want, before we put it out to bid. Yeah, because we don't have anything to put out to bid, so.
Then you may not even have to go out to bid. There's already a blanket bid through National Joint Powers and a few other agencies that you can use.
I asked the farm what, a pickup would be ideal, but he said he'd had an SUV for 4 or 5 years. So probably
Yeah, that'd
take that
be-
SUV and get them a new SUV.
Yeah, but they're right on the bids. You don't even have to waste the money or do anything. Just pick up the phone and you can order it. It's already a bid item. It's an avenue that they may not want to, choices.
Now, question, you're looking for an SUV for Public Works?
It would be
Are
more-
you allowed to ride on that one with Public Works? And,
Yes,
Because you would get it cheaper than going out to public bid.
you have to run the numbers, right.
Yeah.
But see, they're interceptors, so that's what you gotta look at.
You know, I remember when they got down, it was cheaper than you can get one from
Oh,
the
yeah.
dealers.
No, that bid is nationwide as well. There's nationwide ones and then there's regional ones for New England, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. So, but it does save a lot of money.
Are those vehicles all-wheel drive? He's got
Yeah,
all-wheel drive.
four-wheel drive.
four-wheel drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he told, I saw Stefan last Saturday night, he said a pickup would be ideal, but he can make it work with the SUV. He's been doing it with that beat-up Toyota for how many years now, so.
That works well.
he does have occasion to move through town, does he not, especially when
They,
there's a crisis or a.
well, they have
issue.
the DMAT center is up there in West Greenwich, and there's a lot of emergency supplies there.
So he's,
Exeter 2, he's got a lot of emergency supplies stored in there.
And that's a public
And then
works.
in a storm, he's on the road all the time, so.
Did you say you talked to Simon Brown a little bit about what we would?
I didn't talk to Richard, Lynn did, no.
Huh?
Never
yeah,
did.
Oh, I thought you said you did.
Well, he was wanted to, but he never came back.
I'm gonna come back, but you did talk to him that one time, so.
That's good.
Okay.
We'll track him down.
Yeah, I think we should. I actually had stepped in on another matter and he heard that this was discussed, so I tried to explain where it was coming from. But I think talking with him is a good first step, explaining what we want, why we wanna do that. Are we charging Lynn with that conversation? Dan, or did you think
Well,
you
he's
might?
trying to catch him for me. I've been a little busy the last 2 weeks.
Okay,
so-
well, no, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
So want me to get specs from him?
What's that?
You want me to get specs from him?
Yeah,
And then,
'cause he's up here very early in the morning. Yeah,
alright.
I'm going somewhere else very early in the morning. Unless Ray wants to track him down.
I'm going, I'm out of bed before the crows come up. Roosters
Yes.
and the crows.
Yeah, they don't really do that the last time, right?
Yeah, we're gonna see.
All right, so, number D, public records request dated March 30th, 2018. Planning board memo dated April 24th, 2018. So we did receive a letter from the planning board regarding open records request by Vice President by Patterson. Then we have a letter regarding their response to that, so. Anybody want?
I-
Just for the record,
Yep.
Mr. President, I know I respect you, addressed him as vice president,
Yep.
but he did submit that records request as a private citizen.
Okay,
And the attorney on the planning board did make note of that as well.
okay. The only reason I mentioned is it was mentioned in the letter,
Sure.
that way, so,
Right.
thank you for
You're welcome.
clarification.
You're welcome.
And if I may, when I saw the communication from the planning board, I had asked Lynn to place it on the agenda, but Lynn indicated that Dan had already asked. So Dan, you must have asked for this reason, so that you could repeat, okay. I wasn't sure why. So, no, I just wanted to reference the communication that we received
Yep.
from the planning board. And not to read it in its entirety, but there's concern expressed about the time factor, the amount of attention that has to be given to it by the planner. But I think we see something here tonight which addresses it as well, so that might be best. I think if we look at this communication today that we just have here from our planner, if we look at
My concern is that if it was a public citizen requesting, they would first, citizen would be charged, which actually our planner has indicated she would be charging him for that open meetings request as per the law. But if it was anybody else besides someone sitting at this table, we wouldn't be able to stop the request or say anything. Because then otherwise we'd be impeding on the open meetings and that's my concern.
I share that concern too, Mr. President. Also, that I believe there's a statute of limitations in which the response has to be adhered to.
Can you speak to, go ahead.
Yeah, Lynn and I work on responses to open records requests all the time. And I think the planning chair may not really understand that it's not the town council asking for this, and it's not the person who even asks that sets the rules. It is the state law that requires a response within a very short period of time, usually it's 10 days, and some, is that correct, when it's 10 days initially, and then it can be extended. Obviously, the person requesting can always consent to longer periods of time, but there's really no choice. When these things come in to Lynn, whether it's a member of the planning board asking for it, or a member of the public, or someone who happens to be a member of the town council, they all have to be treated the same under the law, because the penalty to the town is to get smacked with a fine if you don't respond within the statutory period of time. So while it appears as though the frustration is aimed at this town council, or a member of the town council, it's not that at all. We have to respond. And if the individual asking consents to a longer period of time, that's fine, that would be a problem. But other than that, there's nothing this body can do to extend it beyond the period of time that's been obtained already. So there's really not much you can do in response to this, other than to perhaps, you know, we advise the planning board that it's not a choice of ours. It's a legal obligation under the Open Records Act.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but this isn't the first time this has happened. There has been other individuals on boards and committees within the town that have made this request as a private
As
citizen.
individuals, sure.
Right, and that person has been given the same
Absolutely.
level of respect
Absolutely.
and expected to, the person who expected to deliver that information was expected to do so on a timely basis, so.
Absolutely, and we always try to get these things done quickly. And, you know, sometimes we don't have people who will consent to an extra extension, which then requires us to go to the Attorney General to request it. It's very time consuming, it's something that takes a lot of time, it's gonna take a lot of time from Lynn, and it takes cooperation from whatever board it is that it's directed at. And yes, it's a pain in the neck, because the law has very strict time for complying. But that's really not, it's not within our power to do much more than we're doing. And quite frankly, if a board does not get this material to Lynn, the town's placed in jeopardy of being fined or being held in open decision with violating the Open Records Act, not something that the town of Exeter wants, and certainly not something you want me to have to spend my time defending. It's difficult, but it must be done, it's under the law.
I happen to have been in attendance, I think, for a meeting one night when some of this was discussed, Frank, you were here as well.
Yes.
But can I just say, for the record, if we take the party making the request out of the equation, as a piece of information, I believe the chair of the planning board wants to alert the council that the time spent on the request is going to take away from time spent on other issues that the planning board is addressing. And I believe, you know, aside, put the party aside, if we could take that as an alert, just so that the record would show that the statement's been made, that it's time gonna be spent taking away from other matters. I mean, I was listening to that conversation that generated this, memorandum, which is why I put it on the agenda, just so we can know here that it takes some time for the staff and the planning office to honor the request.
Well, based on that fact, Councilman, has an extension been asked of the person that made the request?
Extension's been asked and accepted, so
Okay.
it's only a one-time thing.
I see.
What's the period of the extension?
Initially you get 10 business days, and then for good reason, you can request an extension to the requester. And it has to be for good reason. And then if they say, you know, okay, then we can go ahead and take the extra 2 business days. And it's been done in this case.
Had the requester not agreed, we would have the option to go to the Attorney General and ask for the extension. Despite
10
that.
days.
Or you get it done in the 10 days, but I mean, either way, that's what we have to do in order to get that, and that, since the extension was granted by the requester, it's not, there's extra time, as a result.
And having said what I said a few minutes ago, I'd just like to comment on what I read here this evening, submitted by our planner. And I'm just gonna quote, and again, take away the party that made the request, the fact that a request has been made for extensive amount of documentation, at least it would appear that way. And this is what we read. In order to fulfill the amended request, there's been discussion, I believe, as you said, Lynn, about the scope exactly. I have estimated 6 hours of time needed to review 3 years' worth of documents requested. Again, this is a guesstimate. I'm guessing how many pages that will encompass. Have assigned an estimate of 80 pages. But again, it's an estimate, and then she speaks to the fees that would be assessed for the copying. So, just as a follow-up, because she submitted this to us, it should be noted for the record.
So this, I just want to clarify, so is this an expense that is incurred by the person that's requesting the documents or the town?
It's town.
Wait.
Town.
No.
No,
the
you
town-
can charge, you can charge a certain amount.
The $15 per
Right.
hour after the first hour, but that fee.
Right.
Right.
Wait, he's saying who pays it? He's saying who pays it.
Oh, I'm sorry, a requester.
Oh, okay.
Misunderstood, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I just wanted to clarify.
The
that, 'cause
other
I didn't
thing-
know.
The other option is, you can advise the requester that the documents are available for inspection, and it could be that the requester doesn't want copies of everything, and that could cut down on the time. The person looks through them and says, okay, they've been made available for inspection, and I only want to copy X number, which could be, which could be worked out. So the key is having the documents available for inspection and for copying at the time that the person, within the time period that will constrain to work on.
So you don't have to have hard copies?
No, you don't have to copy everything and have a stack. What you do have to have is something generated. Some of this is coming off of e-filing, and I suppose you do have to have them available in some form.
Microfiche? Remember microfiche?
Yeah, microfiche.
Fish.
Is it fish?
Fish.
Is it?
Jim, when someone makes a request, could be one of these folks sitting out here, for example, is that public, by the way, if someone makes that kind of request?
Well, if the person comes in, the documents are public, otherwise they wouldn't be able to get them.
And if
The
request
question is
made,
whether that
that-
person has to give something to a member of the public who asked them. I don't think so, quite frankly. But probably what would have to happen is someone would have to request the same documents. If the individual that gathered them themselves did want to share them with someone. I mean, I've never heard that question before, but I think that's basically the way it would go.
And actually, my question, well, thank you for that, my question was to whether or not, now that there's information that some request has been made, the planner has responded to us about a time frame. If someone would ask the nature of that request, is that public? Well, for instance,
You can't
if
ask the nature of it.
you can't ask what someone's looking for, that's not public,
Oh,
not really.
you mean what the reason is for the person?
Well, no, not the reason.
I'm
What-
sorry,
what-
no.
What is being asked?
Oh, can someone ask, in other words, can someone look at the document, the
No,
request
no,
itself?
yeah, what's the request?
Yeah,
What is
sure.
it- What
Sure.
is the person
Yes.
requesting?
Yes.
Not the specific documents.
Every person, when they request something, makes a public request essentially to the keeper of the records. It would be Lynn. It's on a form usually, sometimes they don't use the form, but yes, that would become, in my estimation, a public document that's been handed to a public official in seeking certain documents. But yes, I think that's a sure.
Just
Upon
asking.
someone's request.
Just asking.
That's one last question.
Of course.
So you had mentioned early on in your statement, Jim, about the legal liability that's placed upon the town. Push comes to shove and the request is not adhered to or satisfied in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
So
Yes.
what is?
Well, there are fines that they could be levied by the Attorney General. I see it's infrequently levied when people are making a good faith attempt, but when you've run out of your extensions, there's a possibility that someone could complain and ask the Attorney General to levy a fine. If you're past the period and there's no extension, it's almost a prima facie violation.
Okay.
Now, so yes, the town is at risk of being fined if after the time of the last extension, we've run out and we have not produced, or at least made it available for inspection. Yes. Now, what the amount would be, who knows, it depends on how violative you are, whether or not it's, whether it looks like you're trying to make a good faith attempt. Those might be mitigating factors, but you don't, I can't predict what the fine would be from somebody. Luckily, we haven't had a situation where we've been in violation in the years that we've been working together on this, and we always have done.
So there's some grace there.
There is, that depending upon, well, there's grace number one, when you could possibly get an extension with the cooperation of the person. And it's always in the discretion of the Attorney General as to whether or not they find a willful violation or a violation that has some mitigating factors or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, there could be some mitigating factors, but you never want to be in the situation where you're hoping that you're just not gonna get smacked. The way to do that is by getting the documents assembled and ready within the legal frame that you're supposed to do. I never suggest that we go past the deadline, basically because you don't know what you're gonna hit, and if you just buckle under and get it done according to the law, you're safe.
Is there a date that the town council should be aware of that
And what's the
needs to
date
be met
now?
by? Or-
It's now.
May 25th.
Oh, I see that in the last paragraph of the town planner's letter. I apologize. Okay.
Any further questions?
No.
We move on to our next item of business. E, request for so many hours, town clerk's office building. We received a request from our town clerk requesting, I'm sorry, a member from Lynn, requesting that we change the summer hours from 7, the hours would be 7:30 to 2:30 Monday through Friday, starting Tuesday after Memorial Day. Return to winter hours, 9 to 4, the Tuesday following Labor Day. Also in the packet, there was a letter from the union steward saying that they've spoken with the business manager. They have no objections to the change, provided there's no change in their hours worked. Anybody wish to speak to this, or?
So, Mr. President, you said 7:30 to 2:30 Monday through Friday. What were the dates again?
Well, the Tuesday following Memorial Day,
Tuesday following Memorial
May
Day.
29th,
Okay.
and they would return to winter hours the Tuesday following Labor Day. That one I don't know. Okay.
I'm gonna get that tonight.
We've done this before, have we done this before? We never did?
But we also requested, one will submit a request to the council, give it to consideration.
And, go
Are
ahead.
are we open for discussion yet?
Oh, yeah, I think we're just discussing the motion, I don't, we said no.
Yeah, we did, well,
Is
technically,
there
we
a
didn't make a
motion?
motion.
No, I
There's no
don't
motion
think.
for us.
I'll make that motion.
To accept them?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Frank, do you wish to go first?
No, go ahead, Karen.
No, you made the motion, speak to it.
Well, I think that, I think what's the most important part here is that taxpayers and citizens of the town are not being, there's no time being taken away from the amount of time that the public servants are serving the town. as the last sentence in the first paragraph says, by implementing the proposed summer hours, there would be no decrease in the 35-hour work week open to the public. So I think that's the main concern. Right? It just changes the hours.
One thing is in June,
June,
the tax
No
payments,
summer hours we got.
and I've gotten phone calls before from people, because, what is it, you don't take tax payments after 3, Maria?
3:30.
Because they have to close out the books at the end of the day. And I've gotten calls from the past from people coming in here at 3:15 and they can't pay their tax bill.
Plus there's elections issues in the month of June.
Yeah,
They also would move it, they close their books at 2 o'clock, so you'd be able to get tax.
They'd be closing it even earlier. What do you need, like an hour to reconcile?
Half an hour.
So 2 o'clock. My concern with the change is it affects one union, but not both. And they did make a request to the council during the last contract to have summer hours put into their contract, and we voted that down. And I would, if we approved it, I would like to see it for both unions, not just one, 'cause I think that would then cause the union to grieve.
Right.
But there is that, with making the payments, with the election coming up.
Could I, since we have a director here, I think people should be freed up earlier on a summer afternoon, but don't you guys already come in early and leave?
They're 40-hour employees, they work at the DPW from 7 to 3, okay? And vendors don't open for us before 7. Some don't even open until 8.
8 o'clock, yeah.
Well, but some are open, like the gravel pits are open at 7, most of them, but like pot stores and stuff, 8 o'clock. So by the time, if we would start open earlier in the morning, there's more time wasted, in my opinion, before we can go fetch what we need for that day if something arises. Not that it's gonna happen every day. But then you get your transfer station, it's also in the union. So you gotta consider that. But it just was, it wasn't
3:30 or
effective.
4 difference.
They're 7:30 to 3:30. And they have been for years,
Sure,
it's on the sign out front.
You get a mad rush at 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon.
It's not terrible, but yeah, they come in up right up till 3 o'clock, pretty heavy, so. But it's just, established hours, in my opinion, if the public's get accustomed to them. For me personally, it's at the highway garage, like I said, it's the vendor issue for us. That's what affects the operation and efficiencies. So that would be my biggest problem.
And then if you're on one of the roads at 6:30 in the morning, someone's gonna call and complain to make it too much.
Well, then there's the noise ordinance we gotta be cautious of as well.
So if you want to approve both unions, is it up to the director at his discrepancy to use the hours?
If we change it, then it's at our discretion. If we change it, then we have to go along with it.
Excuse me?
Like, if we said we're moving the hours to the modified, so we're moving everybody up an hour, sorry, just for argument's sake. If we made that motion, then he would have to go along with it.
It's not up to his discrepancy?
It's probably more up to the steward than it is Steve,
Right.
whether they're,
That's what's in the contract.
Right.
The hours are listed in the contract.
Right.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
It seems that June is a busy month, so I'm wondering if we should see if we can get this resolved over the next couple of weeks and keep it on the agenda for June's meeting, and expecting that the summer hours will be adhered to in the month of July and August, and we can have this thing straightened out and settled by the next council meeting.
Sure, we can continue it.
But can we have a little bit more discussion tonight, especially
Sure.
since Steve is here? I think maybe there's a modified way we can look at this. First of all, I agree, June shouldn't be part of the picture. And I'm wondering if it's possible to at least give maybe a Friday change in hours so that people can have a few more extra hours or a couple extra hours
That
on
was
the
my
weekend.
thought when I saw it, maybe do it
Well,
on Friday.
Well, now I'm thinking, and if even though it says by contract, if we were to suggest that Steve do something different maybe on a Friday, it's a thought. just that one day a week, and so they get out an hour, I mean, just don't agree with me, I'm just suggesting that. I know you're not, but I think if we wait, these are still issues we're gonna have to talk about, you know, what are we gonna do with the highway workers?
We also
They
have
did
animal
ask.
control. I
I
really
beg your
can't
pardon?
change animal control hours because they have to feed at certain times of the day. So that, it's just an option, there's so many variables in all the departments. It makes it difficult to be fair across the board, is one of my concerns, especially when you're gonna end up with a union grievance because of it. Or you could possibly, can't say you're going to.
Well, if we try to mitigate that by minimizing, saying maybe one day a week and seeing if there are any other adjustments you would consider, that's just a thought. So,
Yeah.
do you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Oh, I understand. Or maybe we can get the variables worked out between now and the next council meeting, seeing that we're not gonna, I don't think anybody at this table supports having June be summer hours anyway. So if we continue to push this to the next month's agenda, then that'll affect the July and August. And then hopefully between now and then, you get all those variables straightened out somehow.
Okay.
Think that's amendable,
It's
Steve?
fair, I think it's fair.
But, yeah, so
Take
let's,
the time, do it what you
Right.
can.
Yeah.
if that's it, I mean, if we're gonna go this route and wait till June, let's also, as part of this postponing the issue, ask Steve to come back to us with any thoughts he might have about whether it might work for them.
Well, I can do that on a per department basis.
Well, that was right, you know. And then we'll talk about it again in June. But Lynn can also go back to the staff here and say, they're not closed to the idea, but there are some concerns as to how it affects the rest of the employees and the work that needs to be done here, particularly in June. Does that make sense?
Tax payments, election stuff, yep. Okay. So we have a motion for it, you guys wish to move your motion?
Want to amend it or remove?
Do you want, right now it's to accept.
Okay, so I rescind my motion.
Okay. Rescind the second, or you
I
got
don't
the
think
second?
did you say?
He seconded it only for discussion.
Okay.
So, you want me to make the,
Amended?
so I'll make the motion to continue this item till the June agenda to hopefully work out all the variables between both collective bargaining units to hopefully come to
Some
a
accommodation. Yeah.
some accommodation and resolution for July and August.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unfinished business, we're jumping to H, the Regional School District Finance Committee.
I asked to have that moved up, Mr. President, if you want me to address it.
Yes, please.
So I believe it was either April or, it was either March or April. They initially had this on the agenda.
April.
Pardon?
I believe it was April.
Yeah, I think so. So, it was suggested that we, well, first of all, Member McFadden from the school committee made a presentation to us of how other regional school districts within the state have a separate regional school district finance committee. And that it might be to Exeter and West Greenwich's benefit to possibly consider that. So we decided at that time that we would approach West Greenwich, and I went to the West Greenwich council meeting, and they were very receptive to the idea. There was also a member of the West Greenwich delegation of the school committee there as well, and he and I were on the agenda at the same time. He essentially gave an explanation to the West Greenwich Town Council with regards to how there's been a decrease in state aid and how it's affecting both towns, especially West Greenwich this year. And I made the proposal to the town council about specifically how Charahoe has an unpaid regional school district finance committee. And thanks to Mr. McFadden, he was able to provide us with another copy of which he did before that individual page, but tonight we have the complete Charahoe Act Charter. And in section 12, it says, if I may read into the record, there shall be an unpaid regional school district finance committee consisting of the district treasurer, the town treasurer of each member towns, 3 members of the regional school district school committee, 1 from each town appointed by the school committee, and 3 financially knowledgeable residents eligible to vote in the regional school district meeting, and 1 from each of the member towns to be appointed by the respective town councils. So this is more of a, I mean, granted, Charahoe encompasses 3 different towns, and we only have 2. So I asked West Greenwich if they would be willing to sit down with us to hammer out what the confines of the finance committee would comprise of. And I tried to impress upon them that it needed to be a finance committee that had some teeth, some power. So they had the ability, because you've got all the financial minds within 2 towns and the school committee, to put together this budget and then submit it to the school committee. The school committee, I think, in its own accord, does a good job with regards to policy and so on and so forth. But with regards to the financial matters of the town, I think it would benefit both towns if we were to have, that finance committee. And that way, not only I think would we have more input, we'd have more say with regards to our portion as it goes into the regional school budget every year. So, this would be something obviously that would have to be agreed upon by both towns, and obviously have the school committee involved in the discussion as well as administration. So I would suggest that we probably put together some type of a resolution from the school committee, from this town council, and send it to West Greenwich. Because I told them that I would bring back to this council their willingness to sit down and discuss this, and they think it's a good idea.
Okay.
So as long as we're in agreement and they're in agreement, maybe we can plan in the not-so-distant futures something similar to an omnibus meeting that we have usually earlier in the year that discusses the budget as a whole. But in this case, we can discuss the district finance committee.
Okay.
So I don't know if Mr. McFadden or Ms. Allen has any comments with regards to what I said or anything they want to add. I think the council should open the floor to them and see if they have any other further input.
So, in regards to the Finance Committee and its authority, I think it's a question that maybe Mr. Maruzak at some point could provide some insight into regarding authority. So, this material is in the charter of the Charahoe Act. If the recommendations that come out of the Finance Committee, if it's adopted, would go to the school department, the question would be, what kind of authority do those recommendations go with? Is it like, here, look at it? Or is it, here, you gotta do this? In other words, you can't ignore it. You just say, well, thank you very much, and maybe we have our own financial requirements, thank you for your recommendations. And in that circumstance that I just tried to describe, maybe not so successful, but I tried, whether or not we need adoption of this under the charter and then the school committee charter or each individual town charter to have that authority. And whether or not the school committee needs to put it on for adoption on the ballot, say in November, just as an example. So in other words, do we need the consent of the school committee if we need to add this to have the authority that we may or that the town councils may or may not want to have, for it to be recognized by the school committee? That was pretty poorly stated. So I'll say it maybe a little simpler. In other
Well,
words,
it boils down to what Kevin said earlier. You want to make sure that if they take the time to put together a committee
right,
that is going to formulate a budget, it's not a suggestion. It's
Right.
giving it to the school committee, saying, here you go, this is what we've come up with, this is what you should implement. I believe that's how Charahoe does it, and I believe that's how Bristol Warren does it too.
Right, but I'm not certain. That's why I was suggesting that maybe the council may have an interest in seeing what Mr. Maruzek might have on this, because I'm not sure, you know, how to get that authority. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right now, I have nothing on it, so I mean, it would have to be referred to, and I'd have to take.
Well, that's why it's still under the
How is this-
agenda as unfinished business, so we could discuss it.
How was this created? This was created through Rhode Island state statute?
Yeah, it's under, it's on the first page.
So next
Their
to the
original
Chapter 55. We own public chapter 80, I believe, right?
So
Go ahead.
essentially, it sounds like it would be something that we would ask our legislative delegates to modify the state statute, because then it,
Yes.
Right, I mean, I think, I don't know how it would be done. That's my problem, is that if the committee, if the two town councils say, this is what we wanna do, we have like 1965 public chapter 80 for the
Okay.
school department, we have. But, yeah, I just don't know, to Frank's point, where's the teeth come from, right?
Right. Well, the teeth would essentially come from, we've already taken the first step, it was introduced to us, we went to West Greenwich, introduced it.
Right.
They're willing to
Sure.
sit down and discuss it even further.
Right.
If we get to that point of agreement, then we're gonna have to approach the legislative delegation, and they'll have to submit legislation. Now, I don't see that necessarily happening this legislative session, because April has already come and gone, and there's a cutoff for when they're supposed to submit legislation. But the next legislative session, we can draft a resolution from both town councils to the legislative delegation, asking them to put in legislation to make it statute.
Right.
Now, whether, beyond that, we would also have to make it a question on the ballot, I'm not sure. But I know to get, the actual teeth would actually have to come from the legislature. In a form of legislation that was drafted to be able to allow to amend the charter to have that finance committee as Charahoe does. So, if the council is in agreement with that,
yep.
then I suggest that we put that resolution together and send it to West Greenwich saying that we discussed it, we're in agreement as they are, and we should sit down and discuss it further.
Can I make just a quick comment? As I read this, and I know you keep using the word teeth because you want people wasting their time, you want it to allow for something. But I see their language is to advise and make recommendations, and I know that's what you're getting at, or what you're getting at, because to make a recommendation is thoughtful and initiative taken by some to lay out, here's the way you can reduce your debt service, here's a way you can approach your long-range capital improvement, but this language to me says advise and recommend, so I think you're looking for a little bit different language.
Yeah, the language that I specifically spoke from was not necessarily from the advice standpoint, it was more from how the makeup of the committee would be.
Right, no, and
Right.
it's a
Right.
good makeup, it's good. It's just that, we'll defer to legal counsel at some point, not necessarily now, to see how we can word something that's more than advise and recommend.
Shall approve the sex budget as presented.
Right. So I make a motion that we send a resolution to the West Greenwich Town Council, telling them that the Exeter Town Council is in agreement with a
Creation of a
regional school district finance committee. And we should sit down to discuss what the makeup of that committee would be, and whether it would, what exactly it would be, what its task would be.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. You got the gist of what we're saying, Lynn? Thank you, Paul. All right. Item B, impact fee study, awarding a bid. Oh, hey, sorry, still going to Ken anyway.
Nothing new.
Nothing new?
Everything cool.
All right. Wow, nice. All right, how about you then?
So we did receive a recommendation or a notice from the planning board, in the plan that they reviewed the RFP response from that one applicant. And I think that, I was under the impression that they were gonna contact the vendor, proposed vendor. So if you want, I don't have a problem contacting them and asking them to clarify these bullet points. There's only a few negatives, some are positive, but, it's actually still there.
Yes.
But some of those negatives were pretty out in your face, in your face kind of thing, and I had that in my hand, and now I did see it, and now I can't seem to find it.
Well, it's obvious that they didn't come to town for research, so they got it off the internet somewhere, they didn't make it up. So it's out there on the internet, the information, but, I know that if they do come in, they can't use information that's not accurate, because it won't be accepted right off the bat. So we just have to clarify what information they have, and, if this information really is relevant to what they plan on proposing to do. But I do agree that we should contact, their references, and now the planning board, and you did not score this out with any matrix?
No, we just looked at they reviewed the proposal and each of them kind of came back, we had a general discussion, and those were the points that were brought up for, as either a concern or as a positive on the application.
And you believe the council's best suited to ask questions of this group, well, then the planning board's not? It's a planning organization.
I mean, I guess that's the discussion for the council to have, if they want the planning board to contact.
Yeah, I mean, again, I read it, and now, thanks, because but my thought was, a sit down with somebody is a good thing, to try to clarify, and this is what's wrong with what you've given us. Is that something that is possible?
I can tell you that a gentleman from the company did call my office and asked, when are you gonna be finished reviewing, because I'm trying to budget for future work. And I said that the planning board had some concerns and that I was putting together the memo. He asked me what the concerns were, and I kind of generally said that, the planning board didn't feel like some of the information that you had in there that you were basing your analysis off of was current information, and we highlighted, they said it was 6 village plan for the town, and everyone at the table went 6 villages, what are you talking about? We don't have 6 villages, and we don't have a plan for 6 villages. So there was a concern at the planning board level that they were not grasping current events, current status of Exeter to then embark on a study. You need to know where you're starting.
And that could just be that we don't have that information available on the internet. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know where some of that came from, but it's completely erroneous.
And I don't know if, I need clarification, if the comp plan needs to be approved prior to having this plan approved.
No.
No.
Yeah, my own, Ken, I don't want to cut you out of the process, but my initial thought would be at least an initial sit-down with somebody here and the planner, if she's willing at some point, not immediately, but later, some point in time. Or Ken, do you feel that you could?
I think it's
what do you think?
I think the first bullets, the first 3 bullets about the information, it really is, if they were competing with other applicants, then yes, you could say, that they lacked proper information, but they're the only applicant, they received that information from somewhere, because it's not so far off, maybe the 6 villages. There was a village study, who knows, maybe they were talking about that. But-
So, all right, this is a thought, I'm just talking, I'm thinking out loud. What if we respond to them, indicate that there were some significant questions posed, and would they care to review their submission before we could move on it? In other words, give us something that we would even begin to be comfortable with, because right now, there's a little confidence issue. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean,
They're basic questions, it's not complicated.
No, but they shouldn't submit
Right.
what they submitted.
We wondered who they were talking about.
Please?
We wondered who they were talking about, because it wasn't Exeter.
Well, that was abrupt, and perhaps to the point, Bill. Perhaps to the point, but, I mean, you either throw it out, and we start the bid process again, which is one possibility, or,
Well, to your point, Mr. President, if I may, to your point, Bill, you must have talked to someone to put
I
in
think
their
they had the
head
wrong
that we had a
paragraph in the
6
book or
million plan,
something.
right? So
They had the
maybe-
wrong page, wrong
Yeah.
paragraph, because it was not us they were referencing.
No, I'm not saying it was you, but they
No.
must have spoke to somebody, right?
I guess they did.
Yeah,
or their research was incredibly insufficient. and they
Yeah,
went-
right.
They went to a different Exeter.
well, they talked to somebody
There you
in
go,
town
maybe
who
with
they
Exeter,
thought had a
Exeter.
certain level of expertise.
Exeter knew it.
Maybe there are other Exeters.
No, 8 more.
How many? Oh, 8 more, so it's a suggestion here on the table.
I only know the one in New
Maybe
Hampshire,
it's
I
one
didn't
of
know.
the
Yeah,
other
they're all
7, 8.
Maine.
Really?
Yeah, they are.
So this is not a good thing. Can we ask Ashley, any thoughts on?
well, I
should we
mean,
just-
I might suggest that because the bid process was initiated by the council, maybe somebody with the council wants to identify to them that there were some issues. We'd like you to rectify the issues. I'm happy to have a conversation with them if they need help with information or they need to ask to verify things, that's not a problem.
I think it's a planning process, that these impact fees all along have been brought to the planning board, and the council would only approve at
Well,
the
we
end.
put out we
Right.
asked for the,
We asked for
request,
the
so-
RFP came from the planning board and the planner. I do believe that this, and not that I mind doing it, but I believe it's a planning process.
so what I suggested about having the planner do some interaction is either that or don't even proceed, just rebid. I guess that's our option, see if anybody else is interested.
Because we're gonna look at it a different way. I would look at it, I would call them and say, why did what was the information from? And if they had a good explanation, I'd accept that.
Well, I'm saying one member of the planning board offers that might have been a different Exeter because
Right.
he looked at it, didn't even sound like our town.
Right, well, there's information on the internet that's just old, and we're not providing enough information for the public.
I'll clarify it.
I mean, that's if the council chooses, I have no problem doing that.
You need a motion
Because it's not that far off. I mean, the information is, but what they
Well,
said they can do is not far off from what we want.
No, I don't think the planning board did not raise any issues with their direct methodology or the approach that they were taking. The issue they had was that it didn't seem like they had a fundamental understanding of Exeter. And then there was a couple questions posed about clarifying, timeframes and numbers of reports and who the meetings would be with. Those are just clarification issues.
Those are for contract
But
negotiations.
see, and that's an excellent point, when you say it's not a methodology question, but it's a mindset, or it's an information, it's a,
That was the
Where are
planning
you
board's
going?
main concern, was
Concept.
that it seemed like they didn't have a full appreciation for Exeter. They put some information in there that didn't ring true.
Well, if you recall, a couple of years ago, this came up in discussion, I asked, why is it that we're not using somebody locally who would at least understand the demographic of the state, if not the town? Because this company's out of where?
Work here in Rhode, Carolina.
we did try before.
Right, I mean, I understand that, you can only take bids on one bid.
And we actually reached out to, remember Jim from before? Other
Yeah.
people that we tried to get some help with this. They didn't seem to step forward.
Right,
And it does appear from what my quick cursory glance that they have done work for lots of other communities. But,
A lot.
right, a lot. They just didn't seem to have a focus on what this one is. And it is a bit unique in so many ways, isn't it?
I wonder if they know the communities that they work for. They certainly didn't know ours.
Yeah, I don't remember six village planning and the vision of it forever.
No, it's not. No, those things jumped out at us.
Even old information doesn't carry them to 6 villages.
It was a village plan, but not 6.
Yeah, right.
Where can we go with this?
So I think we give Ken some direction, I think he should still come back.
I'll make a motion to get in contact and we'll clarify the issues.
No second words.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We've turned it to Ken for now, and then see where we go.
Let's see, introduction, consideration, and possible action, and ordinance regulating certain secondary agriculture uses and activities.
Nothing new on that.
Sweet. All right, on the D, that was a quick one. Information technology services. Nothing right
There's
now.
not much we can do about it right now unless there's an update.
I haven't talked to, Mr. Angie yet, he just got back this past weekend, so, he was in warmer weather than we were. All right, so nothing else, going on to introduction, consideration, and possible action, proposed amendments to the Exeter Code of Ordinances, Appendix A zoning, Article 11, renewable energy, Section 11.1 solar. Sure. So this is the one from,
But I forgot, so I'm just giving you my memo references that and said it was
oh,
attached, but I
that's
forgot
not
it.
it, okay,
I'm saying this is draft 8, which we just got Thursday night.
okay. You wanna speak to it later?
I haven't even had a chance to look at it, I'm gonna say move it to a work session.
That's what I was saying.
And it's probably in that stack behind me.
Okay,
So,
okay, I'd like to offer a different approach. I think that this is draft 8, it's significantly, well, I don't know, it looks, I know the language, you're using different language. I think we should move it to a hearing, and in between, we can work with the planning board to understand it. I think it's time the public gets a chance to see what's here. When we met, I know there's no motion on this one, but when we met with the planner a week ago, and the chair of the committee, the planner said this probably would end up to be one of the most comprehensive solar ordinances in the state. And I think what's most significant, as I read it, is we haven't just they have not identified just one kind of solar installation, but in fact, 4 permitted, 5 if you include the residential, which is already in place. Rooftop, isn't that already allowed?
Yes.
But my point is that it was an all or nothing approach when this discussion began. And I see that it's changed, and I sat at a planning board meeting and listened while there was a lot of interaction back and forth. Nobody's rubber stamping anything, and there was a genuine concern that I heard that there needed to be some accommodations in what was proposed initially, and then in drafts 5, 6, 7, because this is 8. So I think we should set a hearing date and work toward getting ready for it. Let the public see it. We'll ask the question. We can meet with them beforehand.
I don't know.
You don't wanna put it out, you don't wanna put it out for public hearing. I think we owe the planning board a chance to have it heard.
Calvin, we have a meeting Wednesday night, we have a monthly meeting. Then we
Yeah, I have a date already.
Then we have a financial town
No
meeting.
kidding. Yeah,
I had
Monday,
3 meetings in, I just got that Thursday
yeah,
night.
Monday,
I never even
June,
looked
yeah.
at it,
I know
so.
you haven't looked at it, you could have, the point is, they've done a lot of work on it, and I would move that we post for a hearing on June 16th. Give us a month and a half to review it. It is a motion.
Is there a second?
Move to public hearing,
On June 16th, which I believe is a Monday, if I have my dates right.
June 16th?
When's our next council meeting? The 4th, isn't it? Or is it the 5th?
Four.
So 4 and 14. The next week is the financial town meeting on Tuesday.
Well,
And the week after that is a Monday, which would be 4 and 14 is, what did I say, 18, it should be 18. Should be Monday the 18th of June.
Is there a second? There is none. I wish to speak to it, though. I think we need to do something, like Cal said. And the reason I'm thinking that is because we have the proposal from Green Energy, which I know we're discussing under L. And theirs, the one we had us at the April meeting was only a modification to the zoning use table at that time. The new proposal before us, dated April 11th, is an overall modification, labeled Exhibit A, clean, and it's a full override of the ordinance. If we go ahead and have the public hearing on the green energy, and if it gets adopted, then we have another meeting right after that to review the planning board's one. This would then kind of defeat the purpose of having one for green energy, because this ordinance would then supersede the one we just approved from green energy. This is a full modification. I think it might be pertinent to maybe hear both of them the same night, and then we get 45 days to review to make a decision on the one from green energy, but then we have unlimited time to make a decision on ours. So perhaps seeing on the same night and decide which way we want to go.
Well, wait, can I speak? I mean, thank you, Kevin, for acknowledging that we should address it. I think that gives us all less time. My only concern about a separate date was that that's a regular business meeting, and I didn't know if we'd be able to do all of our other business, but I would go for an earlier consideration.
What is the, Jim, you can speak to this. For the green energy proposal, how many days do we have to schedule a public hearing?
It's, as I recall, 45 days after the hearing is closed.
Okay.
In other words,
But I
to
mean-
render a decision.
But how long do we have before we have to move it to a public hearing? Can we wait to move this into a public hearing as well, or?
Well, that's up to you. I mean, when you talk about, when you say this one, are you talking about green energy? or-
Green energy.
Oh, green energy is already,
It's already
he's
scheduled
already got
Oh,
it
it's already,
scheduled.
it's still,
for June 4th.
And it's been
Okay.
sent back to the planning board. Hopefully we get
okay,
the
so we
planning
can
board.
close it. Public hearing.
Continue it.
We continue, we can close, that's right, okay.
Close meeting. So that,
We didn't, that was my,
that's
Correction.
another
Okay.
proposal from Green Development, that's proposed for June 4th.
okay.
We close
I didn't think we could, that was my, thank you. So, welcome to council.
That, they had a, mentioned paperwork here about 200 and some odd signatures that they collected.
I think a couple.
230.
Do you have a copy of that petition that they signed? Okay. I would like to see that copy, what they signed, because I had a lot of people talk to me in the field, so.
I'm kind of curious who circulated those petitions. I'm kind of curious about.
There's no signatures on the bottom saying who collected them, because I looked at them when they had them in the town clerk's office about 3 weeks ago. No one claimed to collect them.
Well, that doesn't really add a lot of validity to the petition, does it?
And there was one gentleman on there I know from Cranston that signed it.
I signed it.
So we want to get them both together and then have a meeting after the fact? Because they're both full
We did have the
ordinance.
last one with two ordinances and plus it's a monthly meeting.
So have a the thing is, so we have the public meeting, hearing on this one,
That one's continued.
that's continued, though, if we
That's a
close it.
given.
Right, that's a given, so if we close this one
The monthly
on
meeting.
the close at the monthly meeting, we still have until mid-July to render a decision if we want to accept that proposal. In the interim, we should definitely be hearing our proposal to see which way we want to go on that regarding solar.
When the July meeting fall on Monday, is it?
I don't have a calendar on my phone.
Hold on one second.
Is this the proposal amended from the last meeting at Metcalf?
Yes.
That was supposed to be brought before the planning board, and it hasn't been yet.
May 22nd, though, your next
It'll be
meeting.
the second
in
of
May.
July.
It's gonna be up again.
Second of July is the first Monday.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
So, I went through draft 8, and I think that the planning board and the town planner made a lot of changes to it that the council asked for, which I think is good. I think there's a level of compromise in here. However, my concern is that it seems that with each consecutive draft that we've had, instead of getting simpler and more streamlined, it's gotten more complex. So, it's almost like we make 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward, kind of, you know? I mean, with each
I'm not-
consecutive draft, it seems to get
I'm not, like, I mean, I'm not saying simplicity is always
more,
better than
more
complexity.
complex.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not always a bad thing.
Yeah,
Especially when you
I
have-
understand.
Like,
I mean,
some of the stuff we're saying, all right, on, like the building now, they're allowing it in more zones. By making it more complex, it does make it, I think, somewhat easier for someone who's interested in doing this, depending on what they're doing.
Well, the particular, I have to find it again. I should have highlighted is what I should have done. I mean,
Well,
it's just, go ahead, Cal.
Well, what I'm gonna say is, while you're looking, I think, in my opinion, having sat for a long time, I know, when you have a public hearing, you raise that question, others would say, that's a very good point, and then once the hearing is concluded, we don't have to approve what we've given. And so a public hearing is a chance for a public discussion, our concerns, community's concerns, planning board explains why they think, anyway.
Yeah, but to Dan's point, if we have a work session, then at the public hearing, we can more, we can more rationalize the position of the town, whether it's the council or the planning board.
Absolutely. And what I said was, I think we should set a date, we can hold a work session, if you will,
Yeah.
between now and when we have a date set. But now we are working to a date. I happen to be in the office today, asking a question, actually not about this, but about something I'm gonna deal with in executive session. And while I was in the office, I went upstairs to do a little research, and our planner was on the phone. And when she ended her conversation, she said to me, that's another solar developer waiting to see what's the status here. I watched Channel 10 tonight, it's all over the news. So we can wait, we can procrastinate, or we can look at what the planning board has offered us.
I don't look at it as procrastination, I look at it just as the planning board said in this couple is that it's happening everywhere, and I think there's a learning curve for the planning board and the town council. So instead of making a hasty decision, I don't think we're procrastinating, I think we're making sure what's in the best interest of the town.
So having a work session probably in May, and then having one public hearing on this one in June, and then ours in July. Does that sound amenable to everybody?
Try to do the one in July, not at next month's meeting, not 2 of them.
Okay.
We'll finish this public hearing, schedule the other one for July.
Okay. We will have a work session before, I think, the June one, because we're going to do this one in then, so.
And I hope that work session then will be with the planning board, who spent a lot of time trying to bring this draft 8, and that's, I did, perhaps procrastination wasn't the best word, but 8 drafts, sending it back again and again. And actually, when I looked at this, my thought was, maybe sending it back several times wasn't a totally bad thing, because they had continued discussion. I listened, there's a lot of back and forth, and nobody's rubber stamping anything, because some people, I heard some people have a point of view that was quickly sending up, I think you were there, and on the last night, when they actually approved this to bring to us, I walked in after they'd done their work, but I was interested to observe their interaction. I think we've been well served. So if July 2nd is the day, then let's do it.
All right. Moving on to the next one. Transfer station status. Ken, anything for executive session?
That's what we have.
Okay, we're done with executive. Permit program for cat breeders.
I'm gonna move that to a work session,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Yep.
Before we do that, we've spoken a couple of times, which is our shelter coordinator supervisor. Should we be discussing it, or do you think
The
it's?
state requires us to have it, just realistically, you just have to rewrite the state ordinance in our language and approve it. It's just something that the state sets the fee. If someone comes to us and we don't have the ordinance in place, that's the problem.
Is there one for dogs?
There's not right currently, no, we have kennels, that's different.
Right, maybe state law.
Because they breed most of those down for years,
But the state law cover the dogs,
and the kennels.
so we don't address breeders with dogs.
Well, you mean we address it, the kennel license?
Kennel licensing.
Because
But it's
that's,
not specifically in our ordinance.
well,
No, that's how it,
So that's
they
part of the
license,
discussion.
because they license dogs, it's a whole different world than cats. Cat breeders is just that there's a state ordinance. We don't have it in ours. Basically, the state sent us a letter requesting that we update our
But
regulations.
it's a larger discussion on how far we wanna go with this. We wanna put a huge burden on animal control, or do we wanna put a little burden on the town clerk? And that's where- that's
Either
where
way,
it
the
spans.
town clerk gets a little burden, unfortunately.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move to a work session.
First session, yeah.
Town of Exeter sexual harassment policy. Ken, that's easy
So
with you.
I talked to Jim, we have the model policy, I just have to put it in the format. Jim and I went through the changes that we thought would be more applicable to the town.
Okay.
And it really is the one we have now from 1996, I think it's pretty, it came from the same source, the trust, so.
it seemed like,
Good
when
seeing
we saw the trust piece, it seemed very
So,
similar.
so we'll just, I have all the updates, and so I would like to recommend, I send it to, back to Jim and Ben, and have it ready for next council meeting.
And what the plan, sound like the plan?
Fine with me, no, good for me.
Does Vin need to review it? Would Vin need to review it?
Did you review the first one?
He reviews most of the,
I think we're okay.
you think
If
so?
you just, if you make the changes that we discussed, I mean, I'll just review it to make sure that all the changes were made, and that's probably, because Ben didn't weigh in on the other one tonight.
Some of the other personnel
I
policies.
think it's down to you and me. So I think we're there.
Half price, right?
So if you just make the changes that we talked about, we're all set.
Sounds good. Okay.
Gardner Road issues.
Now, we realigned the driveway, so it's now easily accessible with vehicles to the road.
Okay.
The next step will, to finish, that would be just the drainage when the water table is down low.
You can stop right now, right?
Well, it's not the rain, it's the groundwater table that we're looking at right now, so once the trees get their full leaves, and it dries up, so you're looking at July
Okay.
for that.
I reviewed your monthly report, and I did see a couple of Gardner Road references, but not the drainage, because that's.
No, that'll be later.
That's not, but you have done some work.
Yeah,
on
we did fix the driveway.
troubling issue that we discussed here a couple months ago.
The driveway's been fixed.
Good.
All right. L, the I'm sorry, K, April communication number 1, statewide online permitting, e-permitting participation agreement. That's been moved to,
Wednesday
Wednesday?
night.
so
It's
you-
on Wednesday night's agenda.
No.
No, that's something separate.
oh, okay.
This is the participation agreement with statewide
Oh, that's,
permitting
oh, that's something else.
to get that all set up.
You had told me to take a look at that, and I sent out an email on the 17th, that I think everybody got. Basically, I said, I looked at it from a legal perspective, and the legal form seems fine. The thing that sort of jumped out at me is, it's a $10,000 grant, but what that doesn't buy you the whole thing. I mean, there are a number of the costs, and that's why I suggested that maybe you send this to our financial people, take a look at what the financial impact's gonna be, and then also talk to people like the building official and the others that are gonna actually have to implement this to see what their practical concerns, if any, are as to. From a legal point of view, it's another contract that seems to be in fine form, but, you know, what it means and how what it means fiscally and what it means in terms of the practice. For instance, do people come in here and say, I need, Lynn, help me to process this online because I don't know how to do it? Do they have, is it gonna take a learning curve? Those kind of things, those are the kind of questions I can't tell you, but maybe our permitting officials can. So in my memo to everybody, I suggested that those things be reviewed by the operational people and also by the financial people to give you some advice as to what it means if you do sign on to this. You do get $10,000, but the $10,000 only basically starts the implementation. There are other things and other costs that it seems to me you're signing up for as well. So there's also going to be permitting fees that you'll see as income, but I don't know how that works. I don't know how that stacks up and what your financial impact is. So two things. I would say send it to the finance people, treasurer, and also.
You see this, Maria?
I have, and I did speak to Lori a little bit about it. We are right now paying for some software from Vision that supports the building department, which may not be needed. So my understanding is that other than the initial fees of $10,000, the other fees seem nominal right now.
But we have to pay them, right? The other fees?
Yes, but we're already paying something that may be eliminated.
Oh, we're already paying, we already use that one program?
Vision,
Yeah.
the building department pays about $2,000, $2,400 a year for support. And apparently that may not be needed, but they wouldn't be going through Vision, they'd be going through the state, this particular one.
I think these fees are gonna be lower, right? These fees are gonna be lower than Vision? I think so.
I don't know if Vision if that's their fee, and then if it'll be a direct deduction, or if it just spreads out its fees among the different departments.
Well, it says June 2016.
But the
It's been in
10,000,
place, but now something else.
the 10,000 goes towards the setup. They set it up for us, you know, they keep the money, we don't give the money, they set it up, help us set it up, go through the learning curve and everything. And I think if you don't sign it by June 1 or something, then you're not,
They're not gonna waive those.
yeah, you won't get that $10,000 setup.
But eventually it's gonna
Well,
become
and if it's mandated,
mandatory.
then we'll have to pay that out of pocket.
So we're meeting Wednesday with Ron, so we want to just run it by him, and then before we sign.
Does it have to be complete by that date, or is it just the
This has to
beginning
be
of the
signed.
implementation?
This has to be signed, agreement.
The agreement.
I think it's June 1, right?
It-
No, I think it says,
It
I think
says-
Calvin just pointed it out,
Through
through June, right?
Offer is still available through June of this year,
Yes.
as
End of
as,
June,
as the letter you received
Yeah.
stated. 10,000 implementation costs to give you the platform as well as existing configured.
I did reach out to that, and I haven't gotten a call back yet. There is a contact number at the bottom that I called to see, to try to
To see.
understand the fees a little
Yeah.
bit better, but I haven't gotten a call back yet.
But Did you say it's possible that this process is gonna be mandated at some point? Is that what I,
This is our understanding.
Right.
I'm sorry,
Our understanding is at some point that they might make it mandatory.
And then the 10,000.
and so now they're helping to set it up. It says 22 municipalities are already using it, so there's a little history there. I always say, I think we all need to jump into something that's new that we don't know, but if, well,
Do you know if there's any other rural towns similar in demographic to ours that have already allotted, Ken?
I just saw the 22, the letter from the mail, it's not,
Well, that's certainly not
no, that's not.
civil
Not at all.
any stretch.
we can continue this to the June meeting. Well, because it
Well,
says during June.
Wednesday night's meeting, we got a call.
We do.
We're gonna be meeting with Ron DeFrancisco, so.
Right, but Maria was doing some research, and maybe by then she will have an answer from
I mean, I
this
can,
young lady. So, if we can't make it, we'll continue to look at it, but.
Does it have to be signed by June 1st?
It doesn't say that, no, it
It's
says
through
through
June.
June,
Through June.
not June 1st, so I would
Not by
say,
June, but through June, yeah.
keep it here as unfinished business. We'll talk to Ron Wednesday night. Maria will continue to see if she can get us more information. Right?
Want that motion? Continue
Let's just,
unfinished business?
let's continue.
Okay.
I think that works.
All right, number L is the amended proposal to amend the Exeter Code of Ordinances as submitted by Green Development LLC, zoning appendix A, Article 2, zoning district use regulation, section 2.4, zoning use table, section 2.4.1.69, use category, and revision of section 11.1, solar, utility scale solar, photovoltaic facility, media communication number 16. So this is, we were discussing earlier, that's been already been moved to the June 4th meeting, so.
This is just a continuation, correct, Jim?
Yes, continuation of the hearing. Hopefully by that time, the planning board will have its recommendation and its statement as to whether it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. And then we'll be back ready to reconvene the hearing until such time we feel appropriate to close the hearing. And that will set up the final, whenever you close the hearing, whether it's that night or at another meeting. That will set up your timeframe for issuing the decision.
I know subsequent to some communication, then I remember discussing a couple of weeks back or three, with Lynn about whether this item would appear. But then I know you thought at least that for a point of clarification, it probably should be there.
Yes. We wanted to make sure that the planning board was on base with us in
Right.
terms of the timing, and that's.
And I think we
That's been done.
understand that the board is on board with it.
They'll review the proposal May 22nd, and then we'll turn around the recommendation, and within a week or so, and I'll give it back, which gives you another week before the meeting to have it.
Right. But in speaking to Lori today, or some people, Lori, the planning clerk, she happened to mention that people were calling because they'd seen the agenda and they wondered what was gonna transpire tonight, so, anyway, Kevin, excuse me. Before you move on, the question I think was raised, I know to me, and we were given a copy of the zoning ordinance regarding cost of the processing of these. This says here, the cost of any notice required under the section, and that's with any revisions being requested of to the zoning ordinance, as is Green Industries requesting. It says copies of any notice required should be borne by the applicant. So, I don't know that's not being done. Are there any charges being assessed to Green for anything?
Normally, if council schedules a hearing, a public hearing, it's paid out of town funds. We don't charge the applicant, except for licenses,
So,
normally.
so anyone that comes to ask for a zone change, there's no cost incurred to them.
Not normally.
Do they pay an application fee when we do the application?
There isn't an application to us, it's application to the planning board.
Yeah, so they pay a fee, they pay the fee then.
And
No,
they pay advertising.
Okay.
No?
no.
No fees being.
There's no
paid.
public hearing on our
Oh,
side, so there's
okay.
no advertising
No,
costs.
when
So
someone
there's no
fills out any
application.
type of application, isn't there a fee?
There's fees outlined in our subdivision regulations, but the fee is the mechanism for the fee is in the zoning ordinance, so the planning board doesn't have authority to set fees in the zoning ordinance. We set our fees in the subdivision regulations. The fee, the outline, I brought this to Lynn's attention because I was contacted for another zoning amendment for solar. So there potentially will be another public hearing cost and zoning amendment associated. And the town, in my opinion, my experience has been, is that the town should not be holding the burden of these applications. It's an application by an outside party to the town to amend our regulations. When fees are collected by the planning board, you are coming as an applicant to the town, and the cost associated with administering that application forward gets paid by the applicant. This should be treated, in my opinion, should be treated the same way. I am very confident that if you called around to other town halls and asked what the fee associated with the zoning amendment was, that you would be getting answers in the hundreds of dollars, in addition to the applicant bearing the cost of the advertising associated with it. Because if it's borne on the town, it's kind of it's an incentive for an applicant to come in and continue to amend your zoning ordinance, because there's no fee associated with pushing that application forward. There's a fee associated with almost every application to a town.
Okay.
Well,
I gave you the
raise it.
section that she
I'm sorry.
referred to,
Yes.
so
What, please?
I gave you the section that you referred to.
Right, and that's why I'm bringing it to the table tonight in connection with this. I know it's not on the agenda per se, but it relates to the
1.5.
issue.
And I think it's item number 14 on there, is that it states in the zoning ordinance that a fee should be based on, this information. Basically, the fee should be based on the cost associated with processing the application and advertising the application.
But, and I think when I asked Lynn the question, and she said there really has been no fee ever set for this, at least that, I believe,
And
Lynn, that was your answer.
I believe, I've asked Lori, and I think Lynn told me the same thing, that this hasn't been, nobody has come in and amended the zoning ordinance before. So in their time, there was no reason to set a fee. It has never happened, and now we have one before you, and I have phone calls on the second one asking me how to apply. So it could become a costly exercise for the town, because the advertising is not cheap.
Well, I'm gonna suggest that on the next month's agenda, and not necessarily to apply here, I'm not trying to do an ex post facto necessarily, but I think this topic should be under new business, so we can address other fees. Jim, are you helping me?
I'm sorry.
Are you researching another issue?
These are the same way you
No,
are.
I'm reading-
Okay,
reading the,
all right,
cost.
thank you. No, I don't need to just keep talking. If we looking at the fee, the cost,
Yeah, I was reading. the
okay,
design
appreciate
ordinance.
it,
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm looking at, G, I was looking at, item G under 5D adoption notice and hearing requirements. And then it goes through a number of issues here. I just thought it could be, it might appropriately be an issue to be placed on our next month's agenda under new business, so we can look at fees. That might be appropriate to establish. Or ignore it.
Okay, so we'll talk about this at the next meeting. Or-
Yeah, well, if I could just say, it actually makes a great point, you know, that this is a hybrid. We have a situation where someone is instituting a zone change. Where that happens, generally, if it started, it does, the ordinance says that you can charge the cost of the notice to the applicant. Now, if we don't have a mechanism set up to do that, it probably would be smart to do that. Why not? If the ordinance says that, and the question as to whether or not the planning board should be doing it, she's right again. That's, planning boards, it's not the planning board's job to process this as a planning application, because it isn't. What it is a zone change that specifically states by statute and by our ordinance that the planning board has to give a recommendation. That's all they do. They don't institute the fees, they don't do any of that. All they do is review it so that they can counsel you and advise you from their perspective, from the planning board's perspective. It's all part of the legislative scheme. What we do not have, apparently, is an application form for a zone change. And that's probably what we need to develop at some point. And it can, and a checklist that talks about, here's what you do, you make the application is started by handing it to the planning board, in this case, because that gets the matter moving. The town council refers it to the planning board where the application is taken, and at that point, you know, we could also give them a form for an application and a checklist of what they need to do, including the cost of advertisement. Now, one thing, actually, when it did go through last time, because remember, we had the whole issue as to whether this, what was an application, was the application when they came to the town council, or was the application when they actually came to you?
Right.
And we found that, according to our ordinance, the application was started by going, the minute it came to you, and they filled out some forms for you. Do you remember what forms it were? I know you had a hybrid down there where you actually worked out with this particular applicant what information you needed to get things started.
So we have a standard form for any subdivision or development plan review application,
Okay.
and that's the only form that the planning office has. So instead of creating a new form on the fly with an application
Right.
coming,
You
we
use that.
use that form and said, fill out the pertinent information, check the box that says other for type of
And
application.
I take it that the stuff that you were asking them for was pertinent. The ones that weren't pertinent, you
We
worked
left-
out with them and
we
told them
left
they
one.
didn't have to fill out,
Mhm.
correct? It would be helpful, I think, to the town council if we could see what it is you worked out with them in that particular case.
Sure.
And then we might be able to use that as a basis for a type of application to be used.
And
Whenever it's
because,
on.
because the process is, this is the first time it's happened with a lot of the people that are here, there was no formalized process established. So when the second call came in, you know, I wanted to, is I said, well, you've gotta follow the same process that the last one followed, because that's all we have to work from at this point. So I referred them to Lynn and said, you know, talk to Lynn, file an application with Lynn, the council will forward it to the planning board, and we'll deal with it in the same manner
Yeah.
that the
Well,
first one
That's
traveled.
good. This is very helpful because quite frankly, as Ashley says, what you don't want to happen is applicants at large saying, hey, look at this, we don't have to go through zoning, we don't have to pay any type of a fee because
It's an
we're invoking the statute which requires a particular time frame. So that's, in having the applicant pay, from what I can see, is not inconsistent with the state law. As a matter of fact, it would be, I would be shocked if someone found that it was, because obviously all other applications that are meant to be instigated by an individual are generally at that person's cost. So I would think that it's a good idea to get this kind of an application form ready for the next one if possible.
So back to my original suggestion that we place it on next
Yeah,
month's
good idea.
agenda. But I'd like a point of clarification on the whole process, please, because we apparently are assuming that someone that wants a zone change comes to the council first, and then the council forwards it to the planning board, and that's what we've done here in this most recent situation. it's not our obligation, is it, to forward it?
It's down to the planning board to get the.
Yes, it is. Once, if an applicant, what we're grappling with is the fact there's a state law that puts certain, I'm sorry, Cal.
No, I just want to clarify, I think I didn't make my point clear.
No,
If
you
somebody across the street from me says, comes here and says, I would like to have my property rezoned as commercial, must we, as a council, say, oh, you wanna take a piece of property in in the middle of a development and make it commercial? Do we have to say, oh, let's pass it on to the planning board? Or can we say, no, we're not gonna consider that kind of a change in our zoning ordinance? Do we have that authority? I'm just curious, I mean, just,
Probably not, Cal. Under the law says that a person can start an application by coming to the town, asking for a zone change. When that happens, the town council must send it
oh,
to the planning board.
that's your answer, must, that's all I wanted
It's
to
not,
know.
it is exactly the way we treated this other one. We didn't have a hearing as to whether or not it had merit at that point. The person, by doing this, by invoking the statute, has the right to have this process instituted.
That's fine, you answered my question.
That's why we did it that way.
That's the reason why you charge a fee. Because if you don't charge a fee, everybody and their brother can throw in an application for
That's the start of
for frivolous things.
And that's what I was commenting on, yes, that's precisely what. And the reason this is smart is because you do not want this abused and used as an alternate method to just simply skirt paying the price for causing the mechanism to be put into motion.
So, I did make a motion, or I think, or I could, or I don't have to, but I would make a motion to place this item on the new business in the June meeting.
I'll second.
A fee schedule for, is that, how would we word this appropriately? A fee schedule for submission of a zone?
That was still under L.
Yeah.
Do we have to do a vote on that to forward it on?
No,
we're.
no, that's already there. That's already.
The motion is to put fee schedule for submission of zoning.
Alright, changes.
Proposal changes.
That makes sense?
Ordinance changes. Doesn't have to be zoning, it could be any kind of ordinance.
What do you need to advertise that? Not tonight, even, what we just, to forward it?
You just put a motion before the body, I think, as I understand it, to simply consider having a form for an application, am I right? Or is-
Cal's motion, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Cal, is that next month, under new business, we'll have a new item saying fee structure for ordinance and zoning changes.
Submission of a zone
And
change.
then we'll discuss at that time whether we wanna do it, how much, and then we'll make a change to it, the ordinance, then we have a public hearing. Just to put it on the agenda for next month.
And that being said, hang on, that being said, if the question is, and I don't like to presuppose questions, but if the question is, should we get this in place so that this particular applicant has to pay it, my answer to that would be no.
That was never my question. It was never my question.
I didn't say it was, Cal.
No, but I just wanted to be clear, I'm talking about moving forward.
Calvin, we could talk in 15 minutes about that. Can we move on, please?
So this, alright, the motion before us, all
Can I
those in
just add
favor,
one
say
No
aye.
public hearing.
Aye.
Aye. Alright, moving on, now it's at number 11. Ray, Public Works.
Public Works, we've completed 50% of the road sweeping so far. About 95% of the tree cleanup from the winter storms. We got a couple of real hazardous ones we gotta deal with. And we'll be starting basin cleaning shortly. That's pretty much all for Public Works currently. Transfer station, we've installed some new signage for the recycling that was provided from Rhode Island Resource Recovery, as well as we've been handing out recycling literature. It's all the new Recycle America voucher that the Rhode Island Resource Recovery put out. That's about up there, and that transfer station's going along fine. Animal control's been interesting. As far as the normal operations have been fine, for everything else. We're down on cats, we're down on dogs. We've got 3 dogs as of today, and 18 or so cats. Obviously, everybody probably wants to know about McQuaid case.
I think that, is that under our executive discussion that, or?
We'll be stuck in executive.
Alright, well, yeah. Unfortunately, all the town was awarded is the money for the vet bill. For the
More than
dogs.
last time,
Hmm?
more than last time.
I agree, but I just don't, I personally, in my, my opinion, I would say is, I don't see how the judge can rule on Exeter rules and regulations. Just doesn't.
Can I
I wish somebody
part of it for a
could
second?
really answer that question.
Part of the problem is that we do not have a police force.
Right.
Therefore, we don't have a criminal arm.
Even Coventry.
So what happens is you send an attorney general who is not sensitive to all of the local issues when prosecuting the case. The judge listens to what the prosecutor says and makes a decision. Now, I was not there.
I did
I
give
don't
them
handle those things, so.
all the information.
The point is, the frustration that everybody seems to be percolating forward doesn't come from anything that the town did or didn't do. It comes from the fact that we do not have a police department that prosecutes these things. It is left to the attorney general, and when that happens, we don't get the type of local sensitivity to all of the issues and pressing the issues like, well, what about the cost to the town of putting these animals?
Well, that's why
et cetera.
I mentioned Coventry.
It probably was not vigorously asserted. Now, it could be for very good reason that the Attorney General didn't do that, I don't know. So one thing I do not do, and nobody should do, is question the judge's integrity.
I'm just saying,
and that kind of a thing.
my thing is
I know,
their
you've been
ability
wonderful.
to.
You've been wonderful, you explained to your people, once we found out that there was
Because
frustration with.
Coventry got their vet bill paid, we got our vet bill paid.
But
That was
that's the point, just
we
so
had
you
3 dogs, and it was a minimal impact to the town. But in Coventry's case, for instance, they had 8 dogs. And they
got a
still,
Police department, the
and they have a
prosecutor,
police department, and they still got
lost
nothing.
money,
This is my point, that the Coventry does have a police department, and they haven't, full-time ACOs, multiple, so they had time to, and we put all the paperwork in, we provided them with every document they asked for. Town ordinance, town rules, regulations, everything went to them.
Well, the last
And they were good
the
about
last
calling and
episode,
getting
what, we get
updates.
$1,500, Jim?
Something.
That one like 2 years ago.
That was just
That was
those.
30 grand we ate.
Right, that's exactly, and that was because those animals had to be housed outside of our facility. So we could pretty much write off most of the cost, because most of the food is donated. Not all, but most, good percentage. And so the care is the time you spend that you can't recoup. So, even though we have to be there, in my personal opinion is I find it very difficult that upstate can override Exeter's rules. Why haven't they then? That's what it comes down to. How do you
Well,
change that?
As you know, the rules still apply.
Right.
And if we want to sue that gentleman
I
for the money,
understand.
we can do that. So the rules are there, the rules can be applied. The question is it cost effective? And those are the kind of issues.
Legal fees
If you
are
think we
expensive.
should change it, then you make a recommendation to the council. and
I just want you to know how I feel about what happened.
But, it's not.
As far as the ruling, as far as our receiving back what the town would charge any of you or any of the taxpayers is according to our rules and regulations for housing an animal overnight.
When we enter the judicial system, the judge calls, makes the shot.
I understand, I do understand the system. I just,
You're frustrated.
yeah, well,
Is
it
that
is,
correct?
because
I figured you would be,
Um,
I just only saw.
the last
TV
time,
cut.
we handled it different, every time we handle a case differently. The last one, this year, earlier this year up on Garden Road, that case was excellent for us, because it cost us nothing. We had 1 dog overnight. This one, realistically, even though we had 3 dogs in there, the cost is minimal to the town. So the bill is because of our numbers that's on the books. that I would charge anyone that had their dog in there overnight, or 2 days or 3 days, even if it's a quarantine. We've had an animal 6 months. People come in every week, pay the town for the board, and it was an out-of-town animal. They had to pay the higher rate, and they paid they were clockwork, they were there every day, but they paid every week. So they didn't have a big bill in the end. So, I mean, everybody else goes along, does it the proper, according to our ordinance's way, and in this case comes up and we can't, it's like we have no ability. So, that's all. Other than that, everything I've done is fine.
The thing that those other people don't do is face criminal fine and a sentence. So there is a cost.
I'm glad you're gonna be talking about it.
All right. Moving on to Frank. For the tax collector's office.
Yes. Tax collector's report, collections for the month of April were $287,456.23, and all monies have been reported to the treasurer. As she said in the report, that everybody got a copy of the properties on the tax sale list continue to be removed. And the delinquent tax blocks are being removed on a daily basis from the DMV. And Kim will be transmitting another block file to the DMV in the month of this month. That's it for the collection.
I believe the School District.
Nothing specific to report. I see Diane Allen left. I was gonna ask her if she had anything to say, but primarily just under that heading was pretty much covered when I discussed the finance committee.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Harold, how about the tax assessor's office?
Yeah, and please take a minute to, at some point, read Carrie's report if you haven't already. But she's made a couple of comments to me this past week, one of which involves her new assessor's clerk. She's most pleased with the appointment of a new clerk. They just seem to be meshing very nicely. She's also very pleased with the new service of Vision Solutions. They provided more information for her when people are coming in to appeal or question their revals. And she's got this whole, it's fascinating, I didn't spend a lot of time with it, but it's good stuff. And she thinks the transition from what we used to use to Vision, she used to use, is going to be very, very good indeed. 113 hearings with the reval staff to discuss concerns that people had. And she continues to get imports from other towns for motor vehicles that were assigned to the other towns where they don't belong. She already sent hers out, but she still keeps getting them from other towns. And that's just problematic. Anyway, she's feeling good about having things ready, but once the financial town meeting is completed, she thinks she's gonna be able to work with Maria to get the figures that are necessary to be filed. So, it's good.
She's gonna go on vacation and leave the clerk here alone.
Well, that's why she needs a clerk. But the clerk also apparently needs to be away from here and there, and that can work. So she's very pleased. They seem to be, don't you get that sense?
Yes, sir.
Good. I can tell you about Job Corps just briefly. 63, at least the figures I was given on Friday, 63 young people graduated last Saturday. And I asked Carrie about that. They asked her to speak. She said she was good for this tonight. But that's about double the number when she left about 10 years ago. There have been curriculum program modifications, which include eliminating their carpentry program and doubling the program capacity for welding and manufacturing, because that's where they're able to place And as we know, EB is expanding, and these kids are being trained and moving right into employment there. And the last comment made that I'm just gonna share is that Job Corps students apparently are participating in this year's parade, so I was told. However, our Madam Parade, very important person here, looks like you don't know this, do you? So perhaps it's not gonna happen, but that's what I was told on Friday.
Or sooner, or
So you
sooner or
might
later
just,
will.
you just might inquire, because I'm told yes. Now, with regard to the Washington County Regional Planning, we're supposed to meet on May 3rd. Well, that, if you remember, was our last budget meeting. So when I didn't hear anymore, I thought, no, I go on here. And then the day of, I got a message, because I wrote to Jeff Broadhead and said, I assume there's no meeting, I didn't hear anymore. And he then posted, and I can't be there anyway, and then he posted a message and said, we lost our quorum. I don't think he meant it was me, but that doesn't matter. He says he's gonna try to reschedule. Nothing new there. That's it.
Dan, talk about public safety.
Everything's quiet in public safety until I go see Richard. Let's see, on the Exeter Rural Land Preservation Trust Committee, I did not make the last meeting because I was in a meeting here, and the upcoming meeting is Wednesday night at the same time as being here, so Joram's gonna get me the meeting minutes.
I have you went on quick, but the public safety, I can go backtrack a second, and we talked about this the other night, about a complaint in City Road. And I had went down to the area and talked to a neighbor. We had a work session here, is that correct?
Well, that was one of the noise.
The one with the music and, yeah. I had a complaint from a person who lives in City Road that there's activity going on with a certain house, and they have parties and they play the music up loud, and I don't know if they intimidate, I don't know. Some people are afraid to make a complaint, that's what I'm told. So I brought this up the other night, and we kind of made it up to this week and vote on it, and maybe send a letter with Cal has suggested doing a copy of the noise ordinance, or it's a nuisance ordinance, but it's a noise ordinance. We can maybe do that now. I'm told by the neighbor, it's not that bad. They have a lot of children, and sometimes they have parties. I'm told by others who live around there also that they're intimidated by them, and they do a lot of activity. So I don't know, I can't be judge and jury all at once, but I thought perhaps as a council we can perhaps write a letter and have mentioned about noise, maybe late at night, after certain hours, anything like that. That sounds feasible.
Sticky issue.
Sticky issue. I had suggested for persons to call state police, maybe, and maybe we can.
We have no way to document it, so we're sending them a letter, it's not hearsay.
That's something maybe would be a state police issue. Okay, that's what I wanted to bring up, because I wanted to go down and talk to the person. I had said that the other day, but maybe that wouldn't fly too well. But maybe I should just suggest to get in touch with state police. Thank you.
Okay. Exeter Public Library, Amy says the library continue to be well used. Their programs are well attended during the day, and then their specialty programs. So I have more report, but I do not have my going to community report in it. So nothing new on Rolling Greens. Ken, your report?
I think we're very well prepared for Wednesday night's public hearing, so we have a copy of the packets all submitted. Amy submitted what she had to submit, revised, and it's all together. I think we're all set.
Are we all right?
Public hearing Wednesday night on the budget.
Oh.
And then we procedure.
That's it. Jim?
Nothing other than what we discussed.
Okay. Number 12, bills, appropriations, and abatements. I'll make a motion to approve the bill sheet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There were no tax assessors abatements this month.
Actually, there was one.
I think that's collected, isn't it?
Oh, you're right, please make that mistake. I'm sorry, yes, that's correct.
And there was one tax collector's abatement this month. Fresh, what was the amount on that?
$29.33.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other administrative issues? All right, hearing none, we'll move into communications. Let's see. Which ones have we done for you? So you mark them off Number 4, Roy Rusk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I saw it, I saw, Roy's dad, I guess it was Sunday they did their car show.
Yeah, it was very well attended, I went
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but he said he talked to Steve, pouring cement. Where did they put it?
I sent you a letter.
Yeah, we have.
You know what, if you've been there, I know you all been there, but you go by on the new walkway we put in, and you go over towards the new monument. If you
Yeah.
turn completely around and look at the flagpole, that's where we're gonna put it on
Was it
that.
just a
There's
small one?
It's 36 wide and 18 or 16 inches
Okay.
deep. It's a similar color to the previous stone, coincidentally, that's already there from the 911 one. So it'll be on that same raised, in that
Okay.
small walled area where the mulch is, and it's a perfect spot.
No, I know his son was in a hurry and they got the rug pulled off from under him over with Veteran Cemetery.
Yeah, that's a big state issue with thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh, I guess they got something up there in
Yeah.
legislation, so. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very simple little project.
Number 9, the Fluffy School Committee resolution on gun-free schools.
I pulled this, last year Ray pulled it. And, this is something that comes up every single year from the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence. It's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And in the last year, they've taken in $170,000 from the Bloomberg people for gun control in this state. What's their slogan? Punch lady with the Glock. They're putting out misinformation out there that all the employees are bringing guns to school. But by passing this legislation, they will turn all your guns, all your schools into a complete gun-free zone. So, whereas legally law-abiding people that have a concealed carry picking up a child would be committing a felony if they walked into school grounds. There was another communication from one other town.
Soccer,
Was it?
one soccer.
Yeah, that was another one I pulled. But this group is going from town to town and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So that's why I pulled that. So, because you pulled it last year.
Number 12, the Town of Barrington.
Yeah, number 12, that's the one, the resolution, the Remonto administration is doing money grabs from Central Landfill, Rhode Island Airport Corporation that I know of. She's proposing, I think it's $6 million to pull out of the solid waste, out of their surplus. This is how she's proposing to help balance her budget. She's robbing from quasi-state agencies. She's trying to. This is what's in the proposed budget.
And that eliminates the grants that we were getting.
And this is one of the reasons our tonnage prices went up last year. Cranston had added almost $300,000 to their tonnage figure.
Well, I mean,
They raised the fees and she started grabbing money last year out of the surplus at the landfill, so it's just a hidden tax. Yeah, that's why I brought that one up, so.
I think we should draft a resolution to support Barrington.
Definitely Barrington, yeah, so.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
All right, I'll second that motion. So the resolution will be in support of Barrington's resolution, so, I'll amend it, we send it to all city and towns, along with our delegation in support of that resolution.
Need a second?
He made the motion, I seconded it, so. Any other discussion by the council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Alright, next we had
We
16,
discussed, yeah.
17, resolution by Charlestown, was in support of 87769 and S 2759. That was pulled by.
By me, yeah. Yeah, I see that it's, I read it over, I understand that it's adjusting amounts of time that planning boards have to respond to subdivision proposals. And I guess what I caught my eye as I continue to read is that the amendments reflect it says here, near the end, that the act is submitted at the request of, supported by the Rhode Island Chapter of Planning Association, representing planners and planning boards throughout the state. So I was hoping that we might, for whatever it's worth.
I didn't read the bills, I know last year they changed it and cut back the time. And I cannot support that one because I know what it's like to sit on the other side and take any excuses they could do. That was something to try and get the state a little bit more business friendly when they enacted that law over a year ago. I think it will cut it from 60 to 45 days.
Yeah, and I think they want some of that time restored, but, well, that's fine. It's not a huge issue for me. I don't know that it would make any difference anyway.
Right now, the way land prices are, DEM rules, no one's subdividing land anymore, you can't afford to.
Well, I mean, I was going to move that we support the resolution on behalf of, because it's Charlestown initiated it. So that was my motion, but I know you said you don't support that, Dan, and so probably no one else does, so we can leave it alone if there's no second.
Is there a second? All right, moving on, number 39, Exeter Scranton Regional School, 39.
Oh,
Okay, Frank, 39.
So I was gonna bring this up on my report, but I thought I would pull it in the communications. Just to bring to everybody's attention that the all-day referendum did pass for a total of 33,106,930. And it breaks down, as you can look at the enrollment. Exeter is 804, West Greenwich is 928, which equates to Exeter has roughly 46.5%, and West Greenwich has 53.5%. So, just wanted to bring everybody's attention to that.
We can send them all ahead for cheaper.
43 is discussed, 49 has been discussed. Moving on to 53, Carol, you pulled that one, the letter from the Exeter Democratic Town Committee Chair.
Yeah, just for the record, I mean, now I know we're not gonna address it this evening, but we're gonna talk about it Wednesday. It's on the Wednesday agenda. So I can wait and speak, or that's fine.
We have, the Republican committee's letter now.
Oh, you do? Okay. Is it a similar, it's, okay, good.
I just got it tonight.
All right, so we can make reference to that Wednesday night and make an appointment.
Okay. All right, that concludes our communications. Moving to executive session, I believe we're going in under B, D, F, and G. Sure. And A. B, D, F, and G.
Mr. President, may I request a brief recess before we go into executive session?
Yeah, I think it's even a break.
We can do some real. This is real.
Very good, thank you.
Who made a motion?
I'll make a motion that we enter under that.
Yeah, I'll second, but I'd like to amend to add
C.
C, did you just say C?
I didn't say.
No, I just have something in
Okay,
there.
I'll let C as well. All right,
B, C, D.
F and G.
Are we taking a recess right now?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I have to take a few minutes, I'll be walking there, my back's
Yes, recess.
What we, do you need more?
Summer?
No, we just take
What? Summer, yeah, it's short,
I
man.
think we did.
Back in my
Did you
military.
make it? I think we did. Yeah, we are.
Well, we just, well, wait for public people.
Oh, that, oh, yeah.
Hey,
I hope, I like the trail.
a cigarette for a few minutes.
Or,
Under the money issue, the lease, the purchase,
Still on?
and under G, there's a G.